Dad, she looks so sad.
Dad, she looks
Annie
so
gently
sad.
pulled on William's hand under the table, not enough to interrupt him abruptly, but enough that he knew she wasn't going to let this go. Dad, look, she whispered
Daddy,
again,
look.
leaning slightly toward him and trying not to be obvious. William didn't turn around. He kept his eyes on the menu even though he had already ordered. Annie, sit properly. Don't stare at people. It's not polite. But Dad, she lowered her voice. She's really sad. Annie, she keeps crying, Annie insisted softly. She tries to eat, then she stops, then she wipes her eyes like she doesn't want anyone to see. And she keeps touching her ring. William frowned slightly but still didn't turn around. Touching her ring? Annie nodded, her voice small but very serious. Yeah. She keeps turning it. Like this. Annie twisted her fingers to demonstrate. She spins it slowly, then she just sits there. Then she wipes her eyes again. And then she took the ring off and just held it in her hand for a long time. That made William pause. She took it off? He asked. Annie nodded. And then she put it back on. And then she took it off again. Dad, I think something really bad happened to her. William finally sighed and leaned back in his chair. The restaurant was warm, filled with the comfortable noise of a Saturday evening, plates clinking, low conversations, a burst of laughter from the bar. Before he could turn around, a familiar voice appeared beside the table. Well, if it isn't the busiest billionaire in the city pretending he has time to eat a quiet dinner. William looked up and smirked slightly. Frank, if you're going to insult me, at least bring me better steak. Frank Dawson, the owner of the restaurant and William's longtime friend, pulled out the empty chair and sat down like he owned the place, which he did. Frank was in his early 50s, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, the look of a man who had worked for everything he had and was proud of it. He looked at Annie and smiled warmly. Hey there. How's the lemonade? Annie gave him a small smile. It's good, Mr. Frank. Frank looked between the two of them. Everything all right here? You look like you're trying to solve a very serious problem. Annie leaned a little closer and whispered like she was sharing an important secret. Mr. Frank, there's a lady over there and she's really, really sad. She keeps crying but she tries to hide it. Frank's expression changed slightly. Not surprised. Not confused. Just understanding. She's been here a few nights this week, Frank said quietly. William looked at him. What? Frank nodded subtly toward the window without turning his head. Same table, orders dinner, barely eats. Sits there about an hour. Sometimes she cries. Sometimes she just stares out the window. He paused. Always alone. Annie looked heartbroken. She comes here alone every day? Almost every day, Frank said gently. My waitresses told me she's very polite. Always says thank you. Always tips. Even though she doesn't eat much. Annie looked down at her hands. That's really sad. Frank gave her a kind smile. You have a good heart, Annie. Not many people notice things like that. At that exact moment, something small and shiny rolled across the wooden floor and gently tapped against William's shoe. All three of them looked down at the same time. It was a ring, a simple wedding ring, slightly worn, like it had been taken off and put back on many times over the years. It must have slipped from someone's fingers and rolled across the floor between tables until it stopped right at William's foot. William bent down and picked it up. The moment the metal touched his fingers, he felt a strange heaviness in his chest, like he already knew who it belonged to before he even looked up. He stood and turned toward the direction the ring had come from. Laura was standing near the window, her face pale, her hand frozen midair as if she had just realized the ring was gone. Her eyes met his first confusion, then recognition, then shock. The color drained from her face so fast it was almost frightening. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. For a second, they just stared at each other across the restaurant, 10 years of memories, mistakes, and silence passing between them without a single word. William walked toward her slowly and held out his hand. You dropped this, he said. Laura looked at the ring in his palm but didn't take it right away. Her hand started to tremble. When she finally reached out, her fingers brushed his for the briefest second, and she flinched like the contact burned. Thank you, she whispered, not looking him in the eyes. Then she made the mistake of looking up. The moment she truly saw his face up close, panic replaced the shock. Her eyes filled with tears instantly, and she quickly looked away, turning her face so he wouldn't see her cry. I'm sorry, she said suddenly, her voice shaking. I have to go. Before William could say a word, she turned, almost rushed to the front counter, pulled cash from her purse with shaking hands, and handed it to the cashier. She's leaving, Annie said softly from behind him. Laura didn't wait for the change. She grabbed her bag and hurried out into the night. Frank walked up beside William and looked toward the door. That's the fastest she's ever left, he said quietly. William was still holding his hand slightly in the air, like he could still feel the brief touch of her fingers. Hey, Frank said, looking at him carefully. You okay? William didn't take his eyes off the door. Yeah, he said, but his voice was distant. I need to talk to her. Annie slid her hand into his immediately. I'm coming with you, she said. William looked down at her. You don't have to. She shouldn't cry alone, Annie said. Nobody should cry alone in a restaurant. Frank looked at William, then at Annie, and gave a small nod like he understood something without needing it explained. Go, Frank said quietly. I'll take care of the bill. William put his hand gently on Annie's shoulder. And together, they walked toward the door, toward the woman who had once broken his heart, and was now running away again into the night. William pushed the restaurant door open and stepped out into the cool night air, Annie's small hand still wrapped tightly around his. The parking lot was lit by tall yellow lights that cast long shadows across the pavement. For a second, he didn't see her, and a strange panic rose in his chest, the same kind of panic he had felt 10 years ago when he came home to an empty apartment and a letter on the table. Then Annie pointed. Dad. There. Laura was walking fast toward the far end of the parking lot, her head down, one hand gripping her bag, the other pressed against her mouth like she was trying to hold something in a sob, a breath, a memory. He didn't know. Laura, William called out. She stopped. Her shoulders froze, but she didn't turn around right away. For a moment, she just stood there under the parking lot light, her back to him, like she was deciding whether to run again or not. William walked closer, slower now, Annie beside him. He could hear Laura take a shaky breath before she finally turned around. Up close, she looked worse than she had inside the restaurant. Her eyes were red, her mascara slightly smudged, and there was a kind of exhaustion in her face that didn't come from one bad day. It looked like it came from years of bad days. I'm sorry, she said immediately, before he could speak. I didn't know you came here. I won't come back again. I didn't ask you to leave, William said. Laura shook her head quickly. No, but I shouldn't be here. This is your world now. She gave a small, sad gesture toward the restaurant behind him. Not mine. Annie looked between them, confused but quiet, sensing that this was a conversation full of history she didn't know yet. William crossed his arms slightly. You saw me and ran. Laura looked down at the ground. I didn't run. You practically sprinted to the door. She let out a small breath that almost sounded like a broken laugh. Some habits don't change, I guess. There was a long silence. Finally, Laura spoke again, very quietly. You look, well. William didn't answer that. Instead, he said, You've been coming here every night. Frank told me. She looked embarrassed, like a child caught doing something she couldn't explain. It's the only place that feels normal, she said. No one asks questions. I can sit there and just be another person eating dinner. You don't eat, William said. You just sit there and cry. Laura closed her eyes for a second, like she wished the ground would open up and swallow her. I try not to, she said. Annie slowly stepped a little closer to Laura. Are you sick? She asked gently. Both adults looked at her, surprised. Laura quickly wiped her eyes and forced a small smile. No, sweetheart. I'm not sick. Then why do you look like you're in pain? Annie asked. Laura didn't know how to answer that, so she didn't. She just looked at William instead. You have a daughter, she said softly. William nodded. I adopted her. Laura looked down at Annie again, really looking this time. Annie looked back without fear, just curiosity and concern. She's very lucky, Laura said. Annie shook her head. No, I'm the lucky one. William felt something twist in his chest at that, but he kept his face calm. Laura held the ring in her hand again, the one he had picked up from the floor. She hadn't put it back on this time. She just turned it slowly between her fingers, over and over. You're still wearing it, William said before he could stop himself. Laura looked at the ring and then gave a small, tired smile. I don't know why, she admitted. Habit, I guess. Or maybe I just needed to remind myself that some choices only need to be made once to change your whole life. William studied her face. He left you. It wasn't a question. Laura nodded slowly. A long time ago. And the ring? He gave it to me, she said. I kept it because, I don't know. Maybe to remind myself what I traded my life for. Annie looked up at William. Dad, why is she talking like that? William looked down at Annie, then back at Laura. Because, he said quietly, sometimes adults make decisions they regret for the rest of their lives. Laura's eyes filled with tears again, but this time she didn't wipe them away right away. I didn't come here to ruin your night, she said, or your life. I heard about this place from someone I work with. I didn't know it was yours. I didn't know you would be here. I don't own the place, William said. Frank does. You might as well, she said softly. This whole city has your name on it now. William didn't respond to that. Success was a strange thing. People thought it erased the past. It didn't. It just made the past quieter, not gone. Laura took a small step back. I should go, she said. I've already caused enough trouble for one night. She turned slightly, ready to walk away again. Laura. She stopped but didn't turn around this time. William's voice was steady, but quieter than before. Why did you take the ring off tonight? Laura stood very still. For a long moment, she didn't answer. Then she said, almost in a whisper, because I was finally ready to admit I made the biggest mistake of my life. Annie tightened her grip on William's hand. Laura turned back slowly, her eyes moving from William to Annie and back again. I'm sorry, she said. Not just for tonight, for everything. For who I was back then. I was young and scared of being poor, and I thought money meant safety. I thought if I left you, I'd have an easier life. She swallowed, her voice shaking. I was wrong. William didn't say anything. I see you on the news sometimes, she continued. I see your company, your interviews, your house in those magazines at the grocery store checkout. And every time I see you, I think the same thing. What? William asked. She looked at him, really looked at him, and said, that man was supposed to be my husband, and I traded him for a house that was never really a home. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, leave a comment and tell us where you are watching from, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. The parking lot felt very quiet. Annie looked up at William again, then at Laura. She didn't understand everything, but she understood enough. Are you going to cry again? Annie asked Laura gently. Laura gave a small broken laugh. Probably. Annie thought for a moment, then let go of William's hand and walked over to Laura. She reached into her small jacket pocket and pulled out a slightly crumpled napkin she had taken from the restaurant. She held it out to Laura. Here, Annie said, in case you need it again. Laura looked down at the napkin in Annie's small hand like it was the most precious thing anyone had ever offered her. Thank you, she said softly, taking it. Her fingers were cold when they brushed Annie's. She dabbed under her eyes and gave a small, embarrassed smile. I'm sorry you had to see me like this. Annie shrugged in a very matter-of-fact way. I cry in public sometimes too, she said. Usually at school. Or in the grocery store once. Dad bought the wrong cereal. For the first time that night, Laura laughed. It was a small laugh, a fragile one, but real. William watched that laugh carefully. He hadn't heard that sound in more than 10 years, but he would have recognized it anywhere. Laura folded the napkin carefully instead of throwing it away, like she wanted to keep it. You shouldn't be out here, she said to Annie. It's cold. I'm okay, Annie said. Then she pointed to the ring still in Laura's hand. Are you going to put it back on again, or are you done with it? Laura looked down at the ring like Annie had just asked the most honest question in the world. I don't know, she admitted. William spoke quietly. You said you made the biggest mistake of your life. Laura nodded slowly. I did. Leaving me? He asked. She looked at him, and this time she didn't look away. Yes, she said. But not just leaving you. It was who I became after I left you. That was the bigger mistake. William didn't expect that answer, and it showed on his face. Laura took a slow breath. When I left, I told myself a story. She said, I told myself that love doesn't pay bills, that being poor is the worst thing that can happen to you, that if I didn't leave, I'd spend my whole life struggling. She gave a small, sad smile. Turns out,